Benny wakes up to the quiet ticking of an old clock. He is a mechanic in a small auto repair shop in a quiet American town, taking care of his younger sister Joon, who suffers from a serious mental disorder. Joon is a talented artist, but finds it difficult to live independently because of her unpredictable behavior and emotional instability. She is sensitive, unusual, and at times falls into violent bouts of anxiety and anger. From the very beginning, it is clear that caring for Joon completely occupies Benny's life. He worries about her, lives on a strict schedule, and tries to keep her safe from anything that could harm her. Joon lives in an interesting inner world full of creativity, strangeness, and contradictions. There is a certain chaos in their house, with unfinished drawings and objects scattered everywhere, and the atmosphere seems to be frozen in its rhythm. Benny tries to keep order, but his efforts are often at odds with Joon's desire to go her own way. One of her walking rituals is accompanied by her housekeeper, Mrs. Smythe, who comes several times a week to help take care of Joon while Benny is at work. When the home environment gets out of control, incidents occur. In the opening shots of the movie, Joon causes chaos in the kitchen. As she makes toast, Benny realizes she needs extra supervision. Her eccentricity is colored by warmth, but at times she becomes a danger to herself and others. For example, during one of the traffic jams in the city, Joon suddenly puts on a welder's helmet and begins conducting traffic with manufactured flags, causing confusion among drivers and annoying Benny. Meanwhile, Joon visits a therapist. She is reluctant to talk about her feelings, avoiding direct eye contact. The therapist tries to get her into a frank conversation, but Joon shuts herself off. She draws, expressing her emotions through vivid and abstract images. Benny struggles to find a suitable caregiver for his sister or send her to a specialized institution. However, he is tormented by guilt as he does not want to leave his sister unattended. He decides to take a desperate step and organizes a competition for the role of a caregiver. Among the many applicants, there is an unusual candidate, a strange but kind woman. However, Joon creates a real chaos by trying to disrupt the interview. She pours juice on one of the applicants and then hides under the table. Benny is furious and desperate. He takes Joon outside and reprimands her, feeling like he's losing control of the situation. Joon remains silent with her head down, but her eyes are filled with resentment and misunderstanding. One evening, Benny's friend Mike comes over and invites him to play a poker game. Benny reluctantly agrees, though he fears leaving Joon alone. A turning point occurs in this game. Mike brings along a distant relative, Sam, a young man in his early 20s. Sam finds himself in a difficult situation. He is an orphan and has essentially become homeless, constantly traveling and living with relatives with no stable life of his own. He is odd and a bit clumsy, his mannerisms reminiscent of silent movie characters, especially Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. Sam immediately stands out for his theatrical charisma, which causes his offbeat behavior to constantly elicit both laughter and bewilderment from those around him. Toward the end of the game takes an unexpected turn. Joon becomes an unwitting participant in the bet. She replaces Mike at the card table and, having lost, finds herself essentially obliged to take Sam into her home. Benny is initially confused by this development, but Joon agrees. Sam takes up residence in Benny and Joon's house. Sam immediately begins to introduce an element of theatricality into his surroundings. Lacking traditional domestic skills, he does everything eccentrically, making toast with an iron, laying out trick cards, and demonstrating his juggling skills. Joon, at first wary of her new tenant, gradually begins to be amused by his antics. He gives her a joy she hasn't had in her life for a long time. Sam has an unusual talent for making miracles out of the most ordinary things. He makes incredible dishes out of toasters, uses a tennis racket to slice bread, and turns an iron into a musical instrument. Joon begins to take an interest in the strange new tenant. Sam and Joon grow closer. They communicate without words, understanding each other on some intuitive level. Sam shows Joon a world full of magic and fantasy. He takes her to a park where they dance in the rain, draw on the pavement, and feed the ducks. Sam easily manages to find common ground with Joon. He accepts her for who she is. This manifests itself in small moments. They spend time together, enjoying a walk together, or changing an ordinary day in the apartment into a play, creating a whimsical play with props from improvised things. Joon is impressed by Sam's talent for imitation and his comedy stunts. She sees him as the only person who understands her unusual inner world. Gradually, a deep affection develops between them. Meanwhile, Benny notices that Joon becomes calmer and happier in Sam's company, and for the first time there are positive changes in her sister's life. He is pleased that she is less anxious and laughs more, and is grateful to Sam for taking care of his sister, but at the same time he feels jealous that he is afraid of losing Joon, afraid that she will become independent and leave him. Sam, though a kind man, seems unsuitable for him. Benny's inner tension intensifies when he suddenly realizes that he is no longer always the center of Joon's world. It pains him to see his sister change under the influence of another man. One evening, Sam and Joon go to the movies. They watch a comedy starring Buster Keaton. Joon laughs for the first time in a long time. She feels free and happy. After the movie, they go home holding hands, and Benny is furious. He gives Sam a scandal, accusing him of taking advantage of Joon's weakness. Sam silently listens to the accusations without making excuses or defending himself. Joon, frightened and upset, runs out of the house. Benny rushes after her in pursuit. He finds her on the roof of the house. She is standing on the edge, ready to jump off. Benny develops a relationship with a girl named Ruthie, a nurse at the eye clinic. Contrary to his reserved and strict nature, Benny begins to show interest in Ruthie and even asks her out on a date. However, throughout their budding romance, he faces inner fears. He finds it difficult to balance caring for his sister with his personal life, which causes him constant conflict. The climax of the story comes when Joon and Sam's feelings become apparent. They spend even more time together, creating their own space where Joon feels freer. However, she soon has a seizure triggered by her distrust of the future. She starts throwing paint around the room, destroying everything around her. This episode pushes Benny to make a difficult decision. He wants Sam out of their lives. Sam, although he loves Joon, respects Benny's opinion, which is typical of his kindness and tactfulness. He tries to justify his presence but leaves, not wanting to provoke further conflict. Joon, left alone, sinks into a deep apathy. Her condition worsens, and soon she has to go to the hospital after a panic attack in the street. To remedy the situation, Sam comes to the hospital at the last moment and performs a trick in front of the patients. He turns an ordinary visitor's chair into a dancing partner. This touching act not only lifts Joon's spirits, but also helps those around her see how much Sam can care for her. Benny comes to the realization that his control is only preventing his sister from living a full life. Benny observes this act of Sam and realizes that he has been too strict and jealous. He learns an important lesson, that Joon's love for Sam does not threaten her relationship with her brother, but rather helps her become happier and stronger. In the final scene of the movie, Joon makes the decision to live apart from her brother and start an independent life with Sam. Benny, though with difficulty, lets her go, realizing that she has the right to choose her future. Joon and Sam begin to build their lives together, and Benny realizes the need to let her go and let her find her own happiness. Their new phase of life begins with mutual understanding, love, and free choice. Benny develops a freer, more trusting relationship with Ruthie. This touching ending leads to the idea that understanding, faith, and love can overcome any obstacle.